If you've ever wondered how solar panels work and how they can save you money for your home or business, then this video is for you. G'day everybody, Daniel here from GI Energy. Today I'm going to talk you through how solar panels actually work. So in this video I'm going to cover off how a solar panel works, then I'm going to talk a little bit about how the overall system works, how it can save you money, how to maximize the benefits, so how to get more savings, and then I'll go through a few things to look out for if you are actually considering installing solar panels with or without a battery, so that if you are going down that path, you're not going to get burned basically, and you can make an informed decision about what to buy. So to start with, how does a solar panel actually work? Well, a solar panel obviously goes on the roof of your home or business, or on the ground, sometimes for larger arrays on a ground mount system. When the sun hits that solar panel, there's photons from the sun basically hitting the silicon that's in the solar panel. That causes electrons to move and create a flow of electricity. It's that flow of electricity that can then be harnessed, utilized, and used to save money. So if you imagine your solar panels on your roof, they're connected with cables down to what we call an inverter. The inverter sits next to a switchboard, either a subboard or a main switchboard. So that's where all your electrical circuits are. We put the inverter as close to that as possible. The inverter's job is to convert that energy from solar power, which comes down the cables in DC current, which can be a varied voltage depending on how the system is set up. And when it comes out the other side of the inverter, it's going to be 240 volt AC here in Australia, which is exactly the same as you get from the grid. So by the time the energy comes out of that side of the inverter, it's exactly the same as you're buying from your energy retailer. That's essentially how a very basic solar system works. So when your solar energy is producing, you can use that energy instead of buying power from the grid. Your solar system will fire up as soon as the sun hits the cells, but usually it's not really ramped up till sort of 8 o'clock in the morning, and then through till 9 when it's really kicking, and that'll go through till sort of 3 o'clock where it's really pumping still, and then ramped down. By 4 o'clock it's tapered off quite a bit, and then obviously when the sun isn't on the panels anymore, it's not producing energy anymore. So throughout that whole period, you can use that energy in the home or business instead of buying energy from the grid, and that's essentially how you save money. But obviously there's going to be times there where you're not producing enough solar energy. When it's after sunset is the obvious one, but even during the day when the system's ramping up, or if you're just using a lot of energy, you may not be producing enough. So it doesn't mean you can't turn things on, it just means then you'll buy energy from the grid instead of buying energy, or instead of having energy purely from your solar panels. So it'll ebb and flow throughout the day. There's obviously also going to be times there where you're producing more solar energy than you can use. So let's say it's midday, you might even not be at home, you might have some things turned on, and I'll talk to you about the best way to do that in a minute. But you might be producing quite a bit more than you can actually use. If you don't have a battery installed, that energy is then going to get exported into the grid, and you'll receive a credit for the energy that goes back into the grid. There are export limits, so you can't just push as much as you want back into the grid, and depending on whether you have single or three-phase power, those limits can be 5 kilowatts usually per phase of export, and it can be a bit more than that depending on where you are, and also if you're in a very rural location it can even be less. So that's something to consider, but essentially if you're producing more energy than you need, you're able to sell it back. The amount of money that you get for selling it back is quite minimal. So it used to be a lot more. Now some people are getting 0 cents for energy sold back. Others are getting 2, 3 or 4 cents. Some people that you see their power bills are actually still getting 10 cents, although that's usually only for the first small amount of energy going back, either daily or per billing period, and then it reverts back to a smaller amount. It is going down and down, so those people that are still on 10 cents probably won't be on 10 cents for much longer, unfortunately, which means that the value of using your solar panels rather than selling it back is obviously significant. This is where a battery comes in. If you install the battery, rather than selling the energy back into the grid, you can now push that excess energy into your battery all day as it ebbs and flows, top up your battery, hopefully all the way to 100%, so that by the time 4 o'clock or thereabouts comes round and your solar panels are tapering off, your battery can kick in. So when you come home from work, if you're ramping energy up, then your battery will be able to supply that power. That's really how you save money. Now, there are some other complications there, that if you'd like to make it a more complicated system, you can join what's called a VPP, which is a virtual power plant, And if you have a battery, then you can actually sell energy back into the grid during those peak times, so 4 p.m. to 9 p.m, and then early in the morning when everyone's using a lot of energy, you can actually sell your battery energy back into the grid, sometimes at a really high rate. So instead of 3, 4, 5 or 10 cents, you can sell it back at 15, 20, 30, even over $1 per kilowatt hour. We've done a few videos on VPPs, so I'm not going to go into too much detail there. This video, I just wanted to give you a bit of an overview. So in terms of maximizing those savings, whether or not you're with a VPP, you still want to try and use as much of your household or business energy as you can during solar hours. So if you can do things like put your pool pump on during those peak solar hours, potentially put your aircon on to pre-cool your house if you're not there even during those peak solar hours, so that it's not using loads of energy when you do come home and turn it on and the solar's not working. If you can do things like washing clothes, potentially using a tumble dryer, any of those things that use a lot of energy, if you can concentrate them into solar hours, then you can literally double your savings. Once again, we've got a quite long, detailed video on how to maximize your solar savings. So if you are installing a solar system or considering one, that's probably worth checking out, so you can put those habits into place and really maximize your savings. Now, in terms of what to look out for, here in Australia, we're very lucky. We've got large rebates for not just solar panels, but also for batteries. And we have a glorious climate where the sun shines more often than not. That's a stark contrast, obviously, to some other countries. I lived in England for a long time. Whenever I go back to see people, I always look at solar panels on the roof of homes and businesses and just think, geez, we're so lucky here, because more often than not, unfortunately, it's pretty grey when I'm back there. And the solar systems that you do see, they're just not producing as much as we do here. So we have great rebates, we have a great climate, we've got a great opportunity to do really well with solar. The downside, and where people go wrong often, is unfortunately just going too cheap and having to buy a solar system or a battery system twice instead of just once. The reason for that is the solar industry in Australia has become very cost focused. It's a really low barrier to entry, so lots of companies seem to pop up and then disappear, potentially because there's government rebates there, trying to kind of maximize just making a bit of money. And it's really easy to just make things cheaper and cheaper and then throw an ad out to say, you know, this is how cheap our solar system is, generate leads, sell and install them. But the complexities, obviously, of doing it properly are probably not being met as often as they should be. So we've got this culture in the industry of just making everything cheap. And when you do that with something like solar and battery, which is ultimately going to be the largest electrical upgrade you ever do on your home and business, if you go and look for somebody that's just going to install it as cheaply as possible, you're probably going to come unstuck. So we're a solar installer, obviously we're biased, but whether or not you contact us if you're interested in a solar system or somebody else, I guess my advice there is just do your due diligence, find out how long they've been in business, make sure they've got the correct insurances, referrals, reviews, all of those things. Obviously check out the products they're installing and just do a really thorough job of doing your due diligence. Make sure the person that you're speaking to, whoever that consultant is, whoever that installer is giving you really good answers to questions. Again, there's another video on here of the top 8 questions to ask installers, so check that one out if you're doing your quoting process. And as I say, whether you get in touch with us or not, the purpose of these videos is really to help raise the bar in the solar industry and create better installs for everybody. So we want you to be installed by a really good company, so check out those videos. The other thing I would say is we will put a link in the description to this video to a guide that talks you through how to select a battery system if that's what you're interested in. It's a free resource. You just click on the link and you can get that downloaded, and a lot of people seem to find that quite helpful. So that's how solar panels work. If we've missed anything, or if you'd like more technical information about how the solar panel is actually generating electricity, please hit us up in the comments or get in touch with us. We'd be more than happy to help if we can. And thank you very much for taking the time to watch.